Welcome to the Podcast Discovery Show, the podcast that's about other podcasts, where every single week we talk about a podcast that we recommended the week before and we discuss it in a book club style discussion. I'm Kirk.
And I am Zach.
And this week we are talking about the Scaredy Cats Horror Show. So I have been going so ham listening to Reply All episodes.
It's very true.
Okay, the last like 3 weeks, I think I've listened to about almost 60 because I've listened to some of the new ones and then I went back and started from 1 and I'm at like 57. So yeah, I've listened to a lot of Reply All lately. And
I mean, it is a great show, to be fair.
And I really like both the hosts' dynamic. They've got this great like chemistry and they kind of play off each other and they're fun. They're very different, but they're funny guys. And one of the things about PJ, who is one of the characters, one of the hosts, is he's terrified of scary movies, and he always has been. And he really wants to watch some of these new ones that have come out that, you know, everyone's talking about. Like the one that he particularly talks about is like Get Out. He wants to watch that movie, but he's too scared to watch it. So actually, this is only 5 episodes, is the whole series.
Yeah, I think this was a quarantine project.
Yes, this was their basically side project quarantine because I think they're in New York, if I'm correct. And so, you know, things were nuts there. You know, literally lockdown. Like we don't even know what lockdown is here compared to that. But yeah, so this show is all about Alex Goldman, his co-host, trying to basically immersion therapy PJ into not being scared of scary movies anymore, or at least being able to watch them. You can be scared of them, but having the ability to actually watch them.
Yeah, something. Because, I think he was still scared.
Yeah. And so this is episode 1. The only reason I picked this one is because of the special guest, who is Jason Mantzoukas, who is one of my favorite funny guys on podcasts or on TV or anything like that.
Yeah, he's great.
I love him. He is a funny guy.
He's some of my favorite tertiary characters in many different shows.
Yeah. So this episode is about the movie The Exorcist. And we have a little bit of a history with that movie because we did a podcast on a show that was only talking about that movie and the making of it. I think that was your recommendation back in the days.
Yeah, mainly because I wanted to make you watch The Exorcist. I think they stole my
the Exorcist,
idea.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember that I had never seen the movie, and we ended up, we all came over here to my house, and I made chicken wings, and Phil came over, and he joined us that night, and we watched The Exorcist, and we recorded right afterward. It's a different kind of horror movie, in my opinion. It's definitely special. It's got its own uniqueness to it.
I really do appreciate it as a movie, just by itself, regardless of genre. And that's the cool thing about having Mantzoukas on here, is because we've also covered his show, How Did This Get Made?, which is about terrible movies, and it is hilarious. But he watches so many movies that he adds a lot of insight to movie making in general. Yes, he is hilarious, but he's also very well equipped to be on this type of a show.
Yeah. They did talk a lot, and he talked a lot about kind of this movie builds suspense and that unease in such a way that it's so different than a lot of other movies. You know, it's not like a jump scare type movie. It's more of just, it's disturbing, and it gets inside you, man.
I'm trying to think if there's literally any jump scares. I'm sure there has to be some, but it's
I think
not
the closest one is probably at the beginning. The first thing that
the
he
fire
said was the fire in the attic. I think that was the closest thing. That's the only thing I can think of that was like a jump scare. I mean, there was some loud stuff, you know, where you weren't kind of expecting it. But yeah, that's definitely not the kind of scares they were going for.
No, it's not exactly the same, but it was more atmospheric. And also the buildup of that movie is great because And yeah, they do make all the medical stuff very creepy and generally unsettling.
And I completely agree with Jason when he was talking about how this had this specific angle to where this is exactly the steps that you would take if your child was going through this. You would start medically, and then you would go to, to a therapist, and then all bets are off. You don't know what to do. That's when you would go to, whatever you think might work. And so that is a good point that Jason made. And it's true. I mean, it's just as a parent, it's very difficult to watch that movie and not be very uneasy about what you put yourself in those shoes. I mean, you just do. And
I think Ellen Burstyn did a great job carrying that, because I think that's part of it. I think that's part of the movie. That's the best part. I think that's probably why it's had some sticking power too, is because they cared about the actual movie itself and the story. And it's not something that's just there for scare value. It's got a story. And a lot of that story is about the mother trying to deal with this and not knowing what to do. It's a really great movie. But the premise of this show is they make someone who is terrified of watching horror movies, who will not ever willingly watch one. They just have him watch this. And he literally sets it up like you would think he would. He said he kept procrastinating. He put it off until literally so that the runtime of the movie wouldn't hit their recording time for the show. So he kept pushing it back as far as he could. He then said that he paused it multiple times to take unnecessary bathroom breaks. He called friends to talk about whatever.
He had his friends watch it with him on FaceTime so he wouldn't feel alone.
And he did it in the daylight.
And he had the blinds open. They were closed at first. And then he's like, nope, I need to open my blinds. I need light. I need all the light.
Yeah. And so Jason Mantzoukas immediately went in on him about all of those things. And he made up new rules. And I listened to the first 5 minutes of the next episode to see if it stuck. And it does stick. Those are now called the Mantzoukas rules. And he must follow them.
Rules.
And so you can't cover your eyes. You can't watch in the daytime, and you have to watch it alone, are the Mantzoukas rules that he implemented immediately, because he was so mad as soon as he heard everything that he was doing to try and cut the tension, because all of those things are great and everybody's done it. As a kid, I definitely did that, where you're like, oh, I forgot I need to do something. Oh, there's one more. You can't have any other screen. So no distractions. You're watching one thing and that's all you're watching.
Yeah, for sure. As a kid. Yeah, I did those things as well as a kid.
You want to elaborate? Well, okay. I think it's time to get into it. Kirk.
No.
How is it when you watch a scary movie? Because I know you're not really a fan of it.
I'm not a big scary movie guy. In fact, I watched my first scary movie at your house. It was the Saw movies, the first one, which was actually a really good movie.
The first one's the only good one. The rest of them are...
The other one's got... real bad. Anyway, that was one of the first actual scary movies that I saw all the way through. My mom was a big weenie. She was so scared of anything. So that was just not something that was in our house. My dad wasn't really big on that. He only liked historical type movies or crime movies. He was never a big fantasy or horror type guy either. So, I didn't grow up with it. And so the way that I watch scary movies is, if I'm in a theater, I always make sure I wear a hoodie, because having the hood on, just you kind of feel a little bit more secure. You know what I mean? You got something around your face. And then I don't close my eyes at scary parts, but I definitely close my ears.
Okay, gotcha.
It's the ears, man. I can do the seeing it, but it's the loud noises. I've always been weird about loud noises, even like at work and stuff. If it's something that's loud, it'll scare me, right, Zach?
There's a video I do need to upload to YouTube of that. Actually, no, would have to change some things about it.
Yeah. But yeah, I've never been a big scary movie person either. So like I can kind of feel his pain a little bit. Not quite as bad as that, but a little bit.
Yeah, no, and I was the same way as a child specifically. And honestly, I think that's kind of like why I really got into them is because literally I think it was probably 10 minutes of Nightmare on Elm Street when I was a kid, and it terrified me. Like I had nightmares. I literally slept on the floor for like a month because
Wow.
I was like, okay, what's his name? Freddy Krueger. He pulls you through the bed. Well, I am playing 4D chess and I'm going to sleep on the floor. That doesn't happen one time in those movies. He doesn't get people when they're on the floor. So I slept on the floor for a month. But I feel like I started wanting to like push that as I'm trying to remember what age. It was probably as a teenager. I was like, I'm going to start watching some scary stuff. I'm going to see what it's about. And so I just I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate a good scary movie.
Yeah, no, and I got into them for a little while, and then I would watch all of them, like all of the stupid ones that would come out, because there's so many scary movies that come out every year, like so many. And a lot of them, I would say, scary movies are like a lot of comedies. You know, there's a lot of them that come out, and very few of them are very good. There's something about scary movies that it's kind of hard to get the perfect amount of scariness, but story and good acting. It's a very fine line to walk for a scary movie. It feels like.
I feel like a lot of times indie movies are doing better horror movies because they don't really have the budget to do kind of like a stupid one. It has to be story centered. But yeah, there's always going to be good ones coming out, but it's something that I do prefer that. I honestly prefer like atmospheric scary to jump scares. I feel like jump scares are cheap. They can be well executed. You know, they can be, because I saw like, basically I looked at the list of the shows that are covered in the Scaredy Cats, and it starts with The Exorcist. Then it goes Nightmare on Elm Street. Then it goes to Alien. Then it goes to, I think, like Midsummer and Hereditary. And I can't remember what the last one was.
The last one's Get Out.
Oh, he watched Get Out. So it got to the place where he could watch Get Out and he felt confident. So yeah, Alien has very effective jump scares because it's like the entire movie is more atmospheric and creepy. Have you seen Alien, the original one, like the first one?
I don't know if I've watched that movie all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I don't think I've ever watched that movie all the way through.
It's a really great one. But the jump scares in that are only based on a cat. So like it's just the cat is literally just scaring you because it keeps hiding from the alien. But that's it. Other than that, it's like atmospheric. And then the Thing has great like jump scares. But I feel like in a lot of ways it's kind of like cheap because they use exactly what you said, like volume. It's like volume and like startle.
Hate it.
Not like, and that's what was great about The Exorcist is like this sense of dread. You know, you're like, because like he even recorded himself watching maybe like the most insane scene in that movie.
We can't even describe it on here. I mean,
we really can't describe it.
You know, it's the scene.
Yeah, it's the scene in The Exorcist. Yeah. You're like, what's happening right now? But he recorded himself watching it and he felt that it was coming. And I
loved his voice or what he was saying. He's like, something bad's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen. Something bad's going to, oh my God, what's happening?
It was. And I mean, that was my reaction the first time I saw it too. I won't lie. Like that scene is jarring, even though that movie is like 50 years old now.
It's still very disturbing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know that they would. I guess they might. I guess somebody might still make that movie, but it's a wild thing. But yeah, in the end, they kind of like ask him like how he watched it, and they asked him like how he felt about it, and kind of did he like horror movies anymore? And he's like, no, I do not.
He still doesn't like horror movies.
It's not doing anything for me. So I mean, it's also something you can watch the podcast to see if he starts to come around after forcing himself to watch many of them. I will say it's not a good sign that there's only 5 episodes.
Well, I mean, I think, like you said, it was kind of one of their passion projects, and they were building up to him being able to watch Get Out, and so maybe the immersion therapy worked.
I think it was enough for him to watch Get Out. I don't think it was enough for him to like horror movies.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. So let's talk a little bit about horror movies. Now, I've explained the way that I watch horror movies, which is usually in the daytime with earplugs and a hoodie on. But what about you, Zach? What is the scariest movie that you've ever seen?
It's tough.
You mentioned a little bit about Nightmare on Elm Street.
See, that's the thing. That was probably the most scared I ever was of a movie, but that was because I was like a kid, and it like impacted me differently. I'm trying to think of like a movie where I was just tense the whole freaking time. There's a movie called The Orphanage. I think it's actually like El Orfantado or something like that. It's like a Spanish language movie about like a haunted orphanage. Really, really good. Babadook was pretty good.
I haven't seen that one. I know that it's got a lot of acclaim, but I haven't seen it.
It's pretty creepy, and it's all atmospheric. That's what I'm saying. I've seen a lot of the like jump scary type movies, but I don't really like go for them. Okay, you want to know a great scary movie? And it's not really scary, so that's maybe not fair. There's a movie called Tucker and Dale versus Evil that is absolutely hilarious. It's Alan Tudyk, and I can't remember what the other guy's name is, but like the entire movie is a whole subversion of the genre. So you have, I think they're both just like rednecks that are like out at their cabin, and a bunch of college students are out in the woods, and they start accidentally killing themselves all around them. So then they think that they're murderers. It's ridiculous, but an absolutely incredible movie, and you should check it out. For like body stuff, maybe The Thing. That movie still looks
What
disturbing.
do you mean by body stuff?
Like, so like there's like different like genres of horror type? And well, no, it's more like disgusting. It's not like Saw, but it's like, do you know the premise of The Thing?
No, not at all.
Then maybe I won't tell you.
Okay.
And this should be your challenge. You have to turn off all the lights. You have to wear your cans.
I will never watch a movie with cans on. I will never watch a horror movie with cans on.
It's seriously, I don't know. But here's the question. Do you like that like jolt of
I'm thinking about it right now.
Like of being scared, like, oh God. Because like that's the thing. If you don't like that, then
a little bit. I like the feeling of the atmospheric buildup and stuff like that. I do like that. I do not like jump scares. I've told my kids, please do not scare me like that. I might accidentally punch you in the face, not even thinking. Because that's why I can't go to like Halloween Horror Nights or anything like that. Like I get the fight thing, not the flight thing. It's like I just like I always am worried that I'm gonna hurt somebody. Because I
definitely saw people be punched when I worked at Howl-O-Scream.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, they take you out. You're not allowed to do that.
I get that.
No, but I always liked, well, not always. Like I said, this is something I kind of came into as an adult. I like a well-executed, like, atmospheric, scary thing where you feel just, like, nervous. There's one called Insidious, I think is what it's called.
Yes.
That's a good one. There's one called The Conjuring. That's another good one.
Yep, that one was disturbing. That one was a scary movie. I remember that was probably the last movie that I watched that I thought was like really scary. The one that bothered me a lot, and I think it was because it was so much based on a true story. Just the premise was based off a true story. Was the Amityville Horror. That one really bugged me.
What, the original or like the remake?
No, I'm talking about the remake. I don't think I've ever seen the original.
It's a little hokey at this point.
But the whole thing with that happening in general is just disturbing. And the fact that they, basically built a story around that it really got to me. I remember that one gave me nightmares for a while. And I was a like teenager. That wasn't like being a little kid. The movie that scared me as a little kid was, I think I've told you this before.
Fraggle Rock.
Fraggle Rock season 2, episode 3. where Daddy Fraggle, I don't know any of the
Daddy
characters. I don't remember any of the. I never watched that show. Anyway, no, there was this movie about like lions, and like it was like pitch black, or yes, Ghost in the Darkness. And I remember my dad watching that and me like sneaking in and watching it with him, and it disturbed the crap out of me, and I had to sleep on the floor in my parents' room for like a month.
That's another true story one, I think. I think that was about like man-eaters in Africa. Man-eater lions.
So yeah, that one bothered me. And but again, I was a child, but that one was a scary movie. I remember that.
No, and it's weird because we've talked about it before, but sometimes horror movies, they don't really serve as horror, but they serve as great comedy. So it's kind of a weird thing. And that's part of why I liked it too, is because like we watched The Evil Dead together for another episode podcast we did. And it has moments that are like genuinely like disturbing and pretty solid horror. But there's some parts that are ridiculous and over the top and hilarious.
Yeah, there's a lot of parts that are just crazy.
No, and that's definitely part of it. And then like I think of movies like Deep Blue Sea, that it's like, was that really trying to be scary? I don't really think it was. Or like Anaconda. Do you remember that movie?
I do remember that movie. That one
was actually trying to be scary, I think. But I feel like as soon as you cast like J-Lo as your lead, you're like, we're phoning this in a little bit, at
Jenny
least.
from the Block. Come on. She's a good actress.
Is she, though?
Made in Manhattan and all those other chick flicks.
Ooh, terrible. That's the worst example. I thought you were going to go like Selena.
No, she was good in Selena. But yeah. So that is our discussion of the Scaredy Cats Horror Show. Like I said, there's 5 episodes, and we actually named all of the other episodes that they were on. This is the only one I've listened to, but I really enjoyed it. I love Jason Mantzoukas. I think these two guys, PJ and Alex, are very funny guys, and yeah, you should go listen to Reply All.
Yeah, that's the real pitch here is, hey, these guys from Reply All, they're good at all they do. You know, it's one of those things. They're just good at making podcasts.
They are good at making podcasts. So good at making podcasts.
But yeah, it's a really fun podcast. If you are scared of movies, then check out the movies that they do. I think it ends up being 6 total. So you can watch the movie. You can hear someone who's terrified of the movie talk about it, and you hear somebody who just loves horror movies talk about it. You can kind of go along with the process.
Yep. And so that brings us to this week's recommendations. And I think that we're going to do something that we haven't done in a long time. We're kind of going back to our roots in a way.
7 episodes.
No.
1 episode of our show.
We're not going to cover 7 episodes of other people's shows on 1 episode of ours, even though we did that, and I don't know why.
It's literally one of our top downloaded episodes. If anybody wants to see it, it's called Bumblebee Crumple Snips. And it was literally right before a hurricane hit us. And we did like a marathon. 24 hours. Yeah, we literally were over at Josh's house for 10 hours because we recorded 2-hour podcasts. They covered all 7, I think, was the plan. Yep.
And that was when we had a bunch of our podcast friends send us in their recommendations.
I feel bad.
We also watched like 2 or 3 movies because of that one, like to prep The Wrath of Khan
and Austin Powers.
Austin Powers.
You remember that show, Mike Check? That's literally just about Mike Myers movies.
Yes. Oh man, good times. Listen to those episodes while you can, because those are going to be taken down pretty soon, and we're going to put them in the vault so that we can release them one by one later on to only our biggest fans. Because
it is weird having people listen to that and then hear the show now. But we are going to do something like that. And we have 2 episodes because we found 2 shows that are pretty cool, but they're both fairly short. So we're going to talk about 2 different shows next week. The one that I am going to recommend is one that Josh actually mentioned just in our Slack channel. And it's called Better with Paul. And so this is a business writer for USA Today, I believe. And he's starting a new podcast after years of apprehension. And he has released his trailer and what he's calling 10 bonus episodes that are kind of getting you into the vibe of his show. And so I'm going to recommend A Bedtime Affirmation for Happiness.
A Bedtime Affirmation for Happiness. I need that. I'm going to go with that.
That's
okay.
I feel like it's fair to say this time is heavy. This time on the planet is heavy.
Yeah.
So I think it's fine to every once in a while do things that are uplifting, because it's tough sometimes right now.
And my recommendation is Homemade Stories with Shannon Cason's. So it's Shannon Cason's Homemade Stories. I don't know if you just search Homemade Stories or Shannon Cason's comes before that. I don't know. Either way, we'll have the link in the show notes. But
it came up when I searched Homemade Stories, but it is called Shannon Cason's Homemade Stories.
Yeah, so that's what I wasn't sure. But the episode I'm recommending is 105, A Kind of Beauty. So I heard him the first time tell a story on Snap Judgment. I listened to him tell a few stories throughout the years on Snap. He's kind of a recurring storyteller, but he's just got this great ability to tell stories. And I think that basically this show is a lot like Speak Up's Homework for Life, where he will have a thing that he remembers or that he experienced, and he will tell this really well-crafted story about that. And he's a really good storyteller, funny guy. And I think it's awesome, and I'm excited to listen to that podcast and then discuss it next week.
Sounds good. And remember,
there's always more to discover.
Thank you for listening to the Podcast Discovery Show. We have a few things we'd like to tell you. First, we would love to hear from you on Twitter at the PDS Official, or in our Facebook group, the Podcast Discovery Club.
Secondly, leaving a rating or review on iTunes helps tremendously in giving us visibility, and also visibility to the podcast that we recommend. You can also check out our Patreon page to get exclusive bloopers, old episode archives, and other exclusive content while supporting the show.
Finally, seriously, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you about what you love about podcasts. And thank you for being a part of all of the things that we do.
This was a podcast from the Podfix Network.